During Thanksgiving dinner, my uncle said, "You're the reason your parents stopped loving each other." I was 23 and carving the turkey when Uncle Richard dropped the words that would unravel my entire family. My parents had been divorced for 6 years, both remarried, and we'd finally managed a civilized Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house in Millfield. The knife froze in my hand as every conversation in the dining room stopped. "What did you just say?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. Richard leaned back in his chair, wine-flushed and grinning like he'd just told a joke instead of detonating a bomb. "I said you're the reason your parents stopped loving each other. Hell, everyone knows it. Your mom told me herself when you were 16. My stepfather David set down his fork with deliberate precision. My mother went white, her new husband's hand finding hers across the table. My father's second wife, Linda, looked between everyone like she was watching a tennis match. "Richard, that's enough." My grandmother's voice cut through the silence, but the damage was done. I needed air. I walked out of that house and kept walking until I reached the old playground 3 blocks away, where I sat on a swing set in November cold and called my best friend Marcus. When I told him what happened, he was quiet for a long moment. "Man, that's fucked up, but you know it's not true, right?" The problem was, I didn't know. Not anymore. I drove back to my apartment in the city that night instead of staying over like planned. Monday morning, I called in sick to my job at the accounting firm and spent the day researching family therapy practices. I found Dr. Patricia Mendez, who specialized in family trauma and had openings that week. "I need to understand something that happened in my family," I told her during our first session. "My uncle said I was the reason my parents divorced, and I don't know if it's true." Dr. Mendez leaned forward slightly. "Can you tell me more about your parents' relationship when you were growing up?" I laid out what I remembered. The fights that started when I was in middle school. My mother's increasing absences for work trips. My father sleeping in the guest room by the time I was a sophomore. The day they sat me down when I was 17 to explain they were separating. "Did they ever discuss specific issues they were having?" Dr. Mendez asked. "They said they'd grown apart, different life goals, but my uncle made it sound like there was more to it." She gave me homework. Write down every memory I had of conflict between my parents and see if I could identify patterns. That night, I started a timeline. August 2012. Dad missed my first high school soccer game because of a work emergency. Mom screamed at him for 20 minutes when he got home. September 2012. Mom forgot to pick me up from practice and Dad had to leave a client meeting. They argued in the kitchen while I pretended to do homework. October 2012. Parent-teacher conferences where they sat on opposite sides of the room and barely spoke. The pattern was there, but I couldn't see how I was the cause. Tuesday, I called my mother. "We need to talk," I said when she picked up. "About what Richard said?" "Honey, he was drunk. You know how he gets." "Mom, I need you to be honest with me. Was I the reason you and Dad got divorced?" The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "It's complicated," she finally said. "That's not an answer. Can we do this in person? This weekend?" We met at a coffee shop near her house in Westboro. My mother looked older than I remembered, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there at Thanksgiving. She ordered a latte and stared at it for 5 minutes before speaking. "Check the full story down here."